This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show, our Friday edition. Coming in guest host today, since Jack needed a day off, he's got some boxing function he's going to, is the great Byron Williams, former New York Giants wide receiver. So I'm glad to have him on today. How you doing today, Byron?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Matt?
Not too bad. We lost a former GM from the Cowboys yesterday. One of the first ones to really, I'd say, optimize the GM position. He used computers first. He knew how to promote the Cowboys. He got the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and drafted unbelievably for his time. And his name is Gil Brandt, and I understand you knew him or had some kind of role with him at one time, Byron.
Yeah, no doubt. I went to the combine. I was invited to the combine in Seattle, and it was about 12 teams up there. And the Cowboys was we flew back to Dallas, and then I had a pretty good look combine. And Tom Landry said, "Great job." And then he said, "Anything we can do for you, Byron?" I said, "Coach, I need the football." So he called Gil Brandt in and said, "Gil, I want you to give Byron a football and send it over to the UTA." So I got my first NFL football from Coach Landry through Gil Brandt. And it was just an amazing story. So it gave me a little bit more confidence to become a professional football player.
That's a great story, Byron. I mean, like I said, even before George Young, who was unbelievable for the Giants, Gil Brandt back there in the 70s, responsible for getting Roger Staubach in there, Tony Dorsett, a lot of great players. And they did build, not a dynasty, but if you want to say NFC East, they dominated the NFC East for a long time over there. So I had some great Super Bowls against the Steelers. Some of the two best.
Yeah, and we had Gil Brandt to meet all the players like 3 or 4 years ago, right before they put him to the Hall of Fame, NFL Hall of Fame 2019. And of course, he's in the Ring of Honor with the Cowboys now. And Gil Brandt did so many tremendous things for the Cowboys, and he brought in people like Everson Walls and people like that didn't nobody recruit. He went to black colleges, and he just revolutionized football, and he did a great job, and was always an upstanding guy. You can go talk to him and say anything to him at any time, and he'll answer you and give you a good answer, and that's what you look for in people. So Gil Brandt is one of the outstanding people I ever met for us football related.
Oh, very cool, very cool. So let's get to the Major League Baseball standings and the wild card race. And I'm only going to go with teams over 500, Byron, for right now. Some teams may come back, who knows? But in the NLE, American League East, Baltimore's in first at 83-50. Tampa Bay is at 82-52. Toronto at 73-61, and Boston 4 games above 500 at 69-65. In the Central, only one team is above 500. That's the Minnesota Twins at 69-65. In the West, we have Seattle, surprising Seattle coming out of nowhere at 76-57. Houston at 77-58, and Texas has been falling off. They're at 75-58 right now. They went 3-7 in the last 10 games. So hopefully it's just a little bump in the road for them. In the NL East, of course, you got Atlanta leading at 87-45. The hot Philadelphia Phillies at 74-59. The Central, Milwaukee is at 74-55. Chicago, another team that was kind of unexpected, is at 71-62. Cincinnati's hanging in there at 69-66. And finally, in the West, you got the Dodgers at 83-49. San Francisco at 69-64. And Arizona at 69-65. So those are the teams that are above 500 right now, Byron. The wild card, Tampa Bay, Houston, and Texas right now, if the season ended, those would be the 3 wild card teams. and then National League, Philadelphia, Chicago, and San Francisco. Any surprises of any of those teams up there, Byron, right now?
Well, yeah, there's quite a few surprises. I was at the Texas game 2 weeks ago, but the Giants, San Francisco Giants, surprised me, and it's a couple of surprises. So Texas, they in a slump right now, but they've been playing good baseball. But I always look at the managers, the managers, and I think they got a great manager. And of course, it's fun. It's fun time to start watching baseball now when the leagues start turning and everything, and going into the playoffs. But yeah, it's good to see that some teams are surprised, and it's good to see baseball flipping the switch. And and I think for so long everybody want to see what the Yankees are doing, but this year you got some exciting baseball play.
Yeah, I mean, if the Philly guy comes in, we'll talk to him, Pags, about Bryce Harper, who has really come alive. Since he's been back, he's hit over 300 home runs for his career so far. The Yankees had a chance to get him a long time ago, Byron, and they skipped on him. I don't know why. A left-handed hitter with power. That sounds like he would have a lot more fun in Yankee Stadium than he does in Philly as far as I know home runs. But it is what it is. So the Yankees are using all their rookies are in there, calling people up to play, which I think is a good idea since they're out of it. There's no way that team makes the playoffs.
Yeah.
In college football, Byron, I only got 2 games. I got USC and San Jose State. Their quarterback Caleb, he's kind of the person they're talking about that's going to be the first quarterback taken in the draft from USC. They're talking about maybe the Cardinals tanking to get him. I don't believe any team really truly tanks. They're fighting for jobs. They're not going to go out there and play bad football. So, but that's what they're talking about. Caleb, maybe to the Cardinals, which would, which I don't know. One player doesn't make a team, anyways. We'll find as we both know. But they beat San Jose State 56-28. No surprise here. San Jose State is really not a big competition for USC. And the other one I got was Utah versus Florida Gators. And Utah, physical, running the ball. They had that one big play in the beginning, a 7-yard touchdown. But mainly Utah is from the western region where, Stanford, Minnesota, all these guys, they run the ball a lot. They're still old school out there. So they end up winning the game against the Florida Gators 24-11. So you said you watched a little bit of Minnesota and Nebraska last night. I did catch the highlight on that.
That was a good game. It was close. It was a low-scoring game. Nebraska was really dominating most of the game, but they got a safety. Minnesota got a safety, and he got the pick at the very end with about a minute and some left to go in the game. And Minnesota drove down there and they kicked the field goal. Left-footed kicker, first-year kicker, and he kicked a 49-yard field goal right down the middle. It was exciting. So the whole stands came out on the football field. A real good game. Matt Rule team should have won. I thought it was 10-3 when I first started looking at it, and then it was 10-10. And of course, they scored that field goal, kicked that field goal right at the close of the game. And one great night of football action. Minnesota fans were so excited. And I think Coach Black, which is the Minnesota coach, had a great interview afterwards. And it was a real exciting kickoff. It was on Fox. It was on Fox Sports last night.
Right. Well, I'm from Connecticut, so I'm always kind of keeping an eye on the UConn Huskies. They haven't done too well. They got the new coach there, and they ended up, playing North Carolina State, which is kind of a mismatch for UConn, right? But they were in the game, Byron. They were in the game. They ended up they were going to do a trick play. They ended up, messing that up. And North Carolina State, they fumbled and recovered it. Then they were still in the game as their running back broke one for like 70 yards. But he decided to do a somersault in the end zone. He got penalized 15 yards for unsportsmanlike conduct. And then on that same drive, they got another penalty, put North Carolina State down by the end zone, and of course they won it. But hey, UConn is up there playing with the big boys. I never thought they should move up to Division 1A. I thought they should have stayed in Division AA, where they had a good team and they had a chance to win championship.
Right.
But you get a lot more money when you're in Division 1A for recruiting. So that's why they made the move. Hopefully, this year they have a decent year again. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, and that's fun football too up there. I tell you, that's fun football.
It is. It really is. And NFL news. And of course, I know you guys talked about this a little bit Wednesday about the Dallas Cowboys going out and trading and signing Trey Lance. Of course, he's owed some money still. So what does this mean for Dak? Jerry Jones doesn't tell McCarthy or Dak he's getting him. He just goes out and gets him. Says, there you go play with him. I mean, what do you think this does for Dak Prescott? Does this put more pressure on him? Does it make him play better? Does it make him more, a little bit more fidgety in there that he wants to prove something? What happens with Dak?
Well, I think for real, it's a reality, meaning that, you can't throw 15 in the session and thinking that, we're going to forget about that. These teams are always ready to upgrade, think about the future. And that's what that was. That was one of those type moves that, hey, in 3 years or 4 years, you might have an exit strategy for Dak Prescott. And now we got a guy with upsides and great potential, hopefully. And that's what it is all about. It's all about business. Yeah.
I know he actually apologized to the San Francisco coaches that he got cut. So the kid is a little bit humble. He felt bad that he ended up being named third quarterback for all the draft picks that they gave up 3 first-rounders to get him. So he's a humble kid. A lot of people are kind of trying to compare him to the Eagle quarterback. Trying to say that maybe
Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts.
Right. That he was inaccurate in the beginning, and maybe with the right coaching, he can become more accurate and be more effective. I still have my doubts about Trey Lance. You know that, Byron. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I think he had to go to a team and need to sit and watch, kind of like a Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, these guys didn't go in and just play right off the bat. But you got some players that are more ready to play in the National Football League than some others, and he's not quite ready. And plus, injuries affected him, but he do have clips of greatness, and I think he got the potential. So I think if they just let him take his time, massage him, get his confidence up, let him see him in the speed of the game, and right now everybody expects you to come in and play. I can see that it's gonna be players, they're just not ready yet, and he's one of those players, I think.
Well, how long does he need to get ready, Byron? Now, he's got to play, and he's not going to play. He's not going to play for Dallas for a couple of years anyway, unless something happens to Dak and something happens to Cooper Rush. I don't think he's going to play at all for a few years. That'll be going on like 5 years without playing football. And the only way to get and get those reps is to get experience playing. So I think the 49ers to move up to get a development player first was the wrong thing to do. And now they're under pressure because Bosa right now is not in, and they got to deal with that. So now they're working hard to get him in. They don't want to alienate the San Francisco 49er fans there. But I think that was a terrible mistake. And Trey Lance was in the best position of his life, Byron, because he was with a good team. A lot of rookie quarterbacks, because of the draft, get on bad teams, and they're asked to play right away. You got 3 of them happening this year. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how soon Trey Lance gets his shot. And if he doesn't get a shot for another few years, that might be a complete bust, Byron. I feel bad for the kid. I really do.
Yeah, and we just look at a couple other quarterbacks. Zach Wilson and you're gonna have some of the same things going on with some of these other quarterbacks, and sometimes they're just overrated. And another thing too, you got to have years of experience. Got to get your reps in. Brock Purdy, the reason why he's so successful because he's been playing as a true freshman. And he carried it over, and he was able to see the game. And when he got his turn, got his turn to play. So some quarterbacks are more mature-minded than some others as well. And I think it's all about having repetition getting that experience in and getting that confidence in. And some of these players right now don't have that. And I think sometimes you can see the upsides in these in the combines and workouts, but it's a whole different case scenario once they get on the football field.
Right. So we got some quarterbacks out there that are going to be under a little pressure this year. Byron, who do you think is like your top 3 or 5 quarterbacks that are under a lot of pressure this year?
Yeah, it's probably going to be. I think Kirk Cousins going to be under some pressure. I think he got their good receivers and they weren't able to keep Cooks. They haven't Cooks, but I think he ain't got that running back there with him. I think so. So expectation for the Vikings is pretty high. I think he gonna be one of the guys gonna be under a lot of pressure. I think Russell Wilson gonna be under a lot of pressure. They got Sean Payton over there, and they expect some great things, and things just turned upside and ugly last year for the Denver Broncos. So he's gonna be under a lot of pressure. Yeah. I think the Saints gonna be a surprising team. So I think the Saints might win that division just because of what's happening. But I think those quarterbacks have a lot of pressure. I think what's going to be exciting is to watch some of these quarterbacks like Jerry Goff. I mean, man, he turned the tide last year, had an awesome year. They're going to be a close division. I think the NFC North going to be real close. Jordan Love and Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields, but I think Kirk Cousins going to have to turn the corner this year with the Vikings, and I think he's going to be under a lot of pressure. And of course, I think Tua down in Miami, he's going to be the key for the Dolphins, and so I think he going to have to do some things that because they did improve that team almost everywhere, and they got the receivers, they got some exciting. They had a good defense, so I just think the Miami Dolphins is another team they're gonna need some good quarterback play.
Yeah, well, we talked about him. How about Dak Prescott? How much pressure is he under, do you think?
Yeah, no doubt. Dak Prescott. I see it. So I'm here in Dallas, and you get to see the news, and it seems like he's taking it in stride. But if he throw 2 interceptions in a game, and this first game against the Giants is gonna be a test of time to see what Dallas can do. I mean, these guys didn't even play none during the preseason. And so I was talking to Jim Jeffcoat the other night. I just think guys need to play some during the preseason just to get a tune-up reps and things like that. But Dak Prescott is really going to be under pressure. I think he's one of those quarterbacks going to be under pressure.
Ryan Tannehill with the Titans. I think he's coming into his last year or second to last year of his contract. He's got 2 quarterbacks waiting behind him, Willis, and he's got Levis back there. The rookie that they drafted, and Willis looked really good this year in preseason. Looks like he's got a lot more confidence, and he's can read defenses just a little bit better. So how about Ryan Tannehill? What do you think about his chances of maybe not even ending the season, Byron?
Yeah, last year he got hurt in the middle of the season, and that hurt the momentum. And of course, Derrick Henry got hurt. But Tennessee was off to a great start. Everybody was thinking that they were going to go into the playoff and maybe have a chance at the championship, but that didn't happen. But he definitely under pressure, and he got two good quarterbacks with a lot of talent behind him. They just waiting to see if they if he's gonna stay healthy and he'll be able to take the team. And so I just think Ryan Tannehill is another one of those players.
To the young rookie quarterbacks, I don't really think they're under pressure this year, right? This is a year for them to kind of get their feet wet and see what they can do against the faster NFL defenses and the better coverages they have out there. So it's going to be just relying on talent. And believe it or not, I think the quarterback for the Colts, Richardson, is going to have a better year than the other 2. I didn't think that in the beginning of the season when they drafted him. I thought it was going to be, the one from Texas, C.J. Stroud. But Richardson has the legs, and he can move the ball and maybe get out of jams and maybe pick up first downs. Byron, what do you think about that?
Absolutely. I got a kid that I mentored that's at the University of Florida. And he told me, I had a private conversation with him, and he said Richardson is the real deal. I just think if he get fitted into the right offense and get his confidence up, he said that there's a lot of upside. But definitely Richardson's the guy that I was liking from the get-go. I was just hoping that he went to a good team that's gonna make sure that he's making the progress that he needs. Sometimes you can rush some of these young quarterbacks. But Richardson, he got some talent. He can use his legs. He can run 4.3. He got everything that he needs. But he just don't have that experience, and sometimes his touch on the ball might be a little off. But other than that, he's gonna be fun to watch.
I think so. I think in the beginning, like I said, I thought C.J. Stroud. I don't like Bryce Harper. That I know Jim loves Bryce Young rather.
Bryce Young, yeah,
he likes him a lot. Too small to me, Hopefully he plays good. I wish nobody ill will. I just don't like small quarterbacks that I don't know that then can get hit. I mean, I know Fran Tarkenton was small, Doug Flutie was small. There's been some small quarterbacks that have had success, but he got hurt in college. And sometimes that's a prelude to what can happen in pros, Byron.
Yeah. Well, Bryce Young really looked one of the best, but I thought CJ was going to be the quarterback out of Ohio State. And I was pretty high on CJ and Richardson, but and Will was pretty good as well. But I just think Bryce Young, Alabama ain't had too many good successful quarterbacks in the league yet, but it was high on Bryce Young. I think he answered all the questions and his intelligence and things like that. But I just too think you have to be in the right system.
Very true.
And the Panthers, we'll see what they're trying to do. But look at the history of the Panthers in the last 4 or 5 years for his quarterback. It hadn't been that successful.
Yeah, they move on quite a bit, don't they?
But the quarterback that I love, because I think coach is a perfect coach for him, is Doug Peterson and his quarterback Alonso down there and the Jaguars. I think that's going to be a surprise group of talented team there that going to surprise some people this year.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. Byron, I want to get your thoughts on the 53-man roster for the Giants. Now, a lot of people don't realize this is ever flowing, right? You're going to have people that they can sign during the year, bring them down to practice squad, cut them, go to waivers, come off waivers. It's really crazy before the season starts and even after the season, right? They can sign veterans. Look at Beckham, where he came in at the last few games of the Rams to get that Super Bowl. What do you think about the Giants' 53-man roster right now? Offensive line is always, for some reason, the last few years has been the problem with the Giants, right? DJ's getting hit. Saquon Barkley sometimes getting stopped in the backfield and not letting him get out. Do you think they've improved that offensive line?
Well, I think they got depth at the offensive line, in which they can be able to use a little bit more, more be able to massage guys. And I think they got some depth. They got some young guys as well as some old guys. Evan Neal and those guys need to, this coming into the second year. And Andrew Thomas and those guys is the anchor of the team. So I just think, and they centers, got a great center. So I just think they have improved. And last year was a question mark. And I think that's one of the things that the Giants have improved on. I like what they've done. They got a couple of off-season. Then they had some guys on the practice roster that they'll be able to rotate and utilize it on the team as well. So, and that's going to be the key factor. But another thing, too, that we talked about is Daniel Jones is so much better now in and out of the pocket. I think he don't hold the ball as long as he did 2 or 3 years ago. And I think he able to utilize some of the tight ends. I think with that being said, I think that offensive line need that. Just like if you look at some of the offenses that successful offense, the quarterback release that ball a little bit, 2 or 3 seconds quicker and faster, which help the rotation of your plays and your options and things.
Definitely, I believe that too. They picked up Buffalo's the boogeyman, Boogie Bashman, at linebacker or defensive end. Played with the Bills. We're becoming the New York Bills over here. I tell you, they've got a lot of Bills players, but they have a relationship over there with the ex-coach and the ex-GM, so they kind of know these players. So he's going to be on. He's made the 53-man roster. Wade Robinson has come off the PUP list, so he'll be ready to play the first game. They're hoping anyway. Some guys they let go, which kind of surprised me a little bit. James Robinson, went to that pregame against the Jets, and he played really well. I guess they wanted to give him a real good look. He made a couple nice runs. And Jamison Crowder, who will be replaced probably by Wade Robinson. Those were both cut. They weren't brought to the practice squads, which they'll probably be picked up by a couple teams.
Yeah, and that's the deal too. You got coaches that familiar with a couple of players that was in Buffalo. You got coaches that that's on the team now that have a relationship with some GMs and some players and scouting departments. And that's when you can mix in the skills and talent skill sets of the players. And the good thing about it, when you get down to the 53-man roster, the way they got the practice roster with the 16-member team over there in the practice roster, now you could integrate it, you can move players around, which is good. And I think, one of the things, the last preseason game, usually the coaches could pull players to the side and have a conversation with them and say, hey, this is what we're thinking, and this is what's going to happen. So just sit tight, blah, blah, blah. And that's the good thing about football. You got relationships, you got coaches that know you, and then it's pretty open now. So they, and it's an honor and a privilege to be on that 16-man practice roster now. So that's the one good thing. And you go from having 90 players on your team to 53 plus the 16, which is 69, almost 70 players. So you really not getting, you just only letting 20, 21 players go. And then, of course, you have your injury reserve. You have 3 or 4 guys that, on your injury reserve. So you're part of that team and you're part of that locker room. Because another thing, too, just think about this. In the offseason, these players are always together and they kind of know each other. And then you kind of know the players that got the integrity. You got players that are going to be able to use in the community and players to be able to do some things. But, we really want to build that real mindset of having the right players going in and out of the locker room throughout the day and throughout practice. So it's a lot that I think that they have to look at, but definitely want to have the right people walking in and outside these offices and meeting rooms and doing the right thing on the offseason. I was going to talk to Jim about this, but, we had a Cowboy last week got arrested, and
right.
Which is sad. You don't want any kind of negative news right before the season get kicked off.
Right. Speaking of the Cowboys, Miami trades for Dallas Cowboy Kelvin Joseph, and I guess that's to replace Ramsey over there who got hurt. Kelvin Joseph is a pretty good player, Byron.
He was a second-round draft choice. Yeah, and but they used him a lot on the special team, but he got a little trouble last year with in the off season, but he was highly rated coming out of college, and I think he'll be a good fit for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, younger than Ramsey too. So I mean that will he'll be able to play a little longer for him too, because Ramsey, of course, getting a little old in the tooth over there, even though he was still a all-pro selection. This could help. This is why I'm so high on Miami this year, Byron. It seems like they're making the right moves. Their coach is a little nutty. Their coach is a little crazy down there. I know that. He looks like he
is totally different. He's totally different. He is totally different. But yeah, Ramsey is just 28 years old too. But he hurt himself during the preseason. I think got injured or something, and he's gonna be out for 4 weeks, I think. But yeah, they want security blanket and Miami, man, other than that quarterback position, I got a question mark on the quarterback. They got some players.
They do. They do. So, Byron, I want to get to your picks, and of course, I'm going to grill you on your picks because
this is the hardest year. This is the hardest year.
So,
it's three things that I look at.
No.
Before you say that, I want everybody to know. It's three things I look at. I look at the quarterback, the head coaches, the defense, and you have to look at the special team. Special team, they have made the rules so crazy now in the NFL. You can't hardly look at special team like you used to, but you definitely got to look at the defense. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So we're going to start in the AFC, Byron. And of course, we got the AFC West, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Raiders, and who the heck is over there? Raiders and the Broncos. That's right. The Broncos are over there. So who do you got coming in first in the AFC West, Byron?
The Chiefs. I got the Chiefs. I got the Chargers. I got the Raiders, and then I got the Broncos. I just don't. I just think it's gonna be almost like it was last year.
All right, we'll get to the wild cards after we do the division. So you got the AFC North, probably the toughest division in football this year, Byron. I think it's even tougher than the NFC or AFC East, but that's my opinion. Who do you got winning the division over there?
AFC North?
Yes.
I got the Bengals,
Cincinnati,
the Browns.
Now Joe Burrows is banged up.
Now he's healthy now. He's back full go.
Well, that's what they're saying. He's good to play, but he's not gonna be able to move around in the first few games, Byron. He got a hurt leg.
I'm telling you, the team I circled in that division, is the Browns.
All right.
That's the team I circled.
All right. Okay.
But you know what? The Ravens and the Steelers, I still say the Steelers gonna be hard to beat.
Yes, they are. So now we got the AFC South: Titans, Colts, Jaguars, and I think the not the Texans. Yeah, the Texans. Right?
The Jaguars. I think the Jaguars and the Titans are gonna be the two teams to watch. I do not like the Colts. The Texans gonna have some potential. I just think they're gonna be building and kind of putting their pieces together. But I think the Jaguars go. Doug Peterson is going. Trevor Lawrence gonna have that team rolling. They looked so good last year at the end of the season. They was the surprise team of the playoffs.
The most overrated quarterback in the league is Trevor Lawrence, Byron. Most overrated. He was supposed to be the player of a generation. His arm is too slow. His footwork is terrible. That's why he throws so many interceptions. He's got to cut them interceptions down, Byron. He has to cut them down.
Well, I think this year it's going to be the turning point for him, and I think he improved last year. At the end of the season, the last 4 or 5 games, he came on strong, and he really put them back into the thick of things, and they made the playoffs. So I just like Doug Peterson. I like Doug Peterson because he's a master at play calling. He kind of like a Andy Reid. He put the puzzles together. He put the pieces together.
I think you played with Doug Peterson. That's why you're saying that, Byron. Right?
I did. I know him real well. So I just think people that I know for years. But right. I like Doug Peterson. I think he deserved to be a coach in the NFL, which I like. So,
all right. So the Philly sports guy Jimmy Pags joins us this morning. How you doing,
Pags?
Good morning. How is everybody?
Not too bad, Pags. We're going through Byron's picks right now. I don't know if you want to do your picks for the show now, or you want to wait till Sunday if you're going to be in Sunday.
For
picking the winners, wild cards.
There ain't no winners and wild cards. Like for baseball, for football, for
football. Of course, it's for football.
Well, I mean, we don't have any games this Sunday, right? So I don't know. Like I'm not.
Next Sunday, we got a Thursday night game, but that's it. So that's why we're picking it on Sunday. So if you want to wait till Sunday, I'm going to wait till Sunday with Jim and Jack. If you want to wait till Sunday, and we can just make fun of Byron's picks right now if you want.
All right, that sounds good. Let's just make fun of
I got my picks ready. All
right. Well, I didn't send Pags a message. I sent it to you. So far in the West, in the AFC, he's got Kansas City in the West. He's got the Bengals in the North and the Jags in the South.
I got to agree with that.
That's what I got.
The Bengals are going to have a really tough time. It's going to really matter what is going on with Burrow.
I agree.
He's gonna be all right.
I think he's gonna be. I think he's banged up.
He got his calf muscle.
He's not gonna be able to move.
He'll be able to drop back and throw that ball.
Yeah, he can throw. The first 4 games, he's gonna have a little problem moving around. I don't have the Bengals, game schedule in front of me. But then first 4 games, if he doesn't get hit, he's gonna, he'll be healed up by then. But he's gonna take a little bit, Byron. We'll see. So you got the Jags in the South. All right, here it is, AFC East. I know Pags is going to make fun. I won't make fun of you too much on this pick. I know Pags will. What do you got?
I'm going with the Jets. I think it's going to be tight between the Bills and the Dolphins. And, of course, the Patriots are going to be in last place of that.
Let me tell you something, the Jets. All right, the Jets offensive.
You hear me?
The Jets offensive line is not that good, Byron. Rodgers needs blocking more than he ever has. Their defense is very good. It's going to be a top defense. Their running game is with Delvin Cook might be improved a little bit. It's the offensive line that I'm worried about, Byron. What do you think, Pags?
Jets are the 3rd best team in that division. Yeah, I think that the Jets are not going to be anywhere near where people think they are. I think that it's going to take a year to get their stuff together. I think next year they could really make a run at the division. But I think this year they got to figure out how to be cohesive and win games. That a team that's been used to losing for so long is going to figure out ways to lose some of these games rather than win them. And I think that that's going to be to the detriment. That being said, they could still go 10-7. I don't believe they're going to make the playoffs. You know what I mean? They could win the games and still not make it in because of how tough the AFC is.
All right, so there you go. So Byron, we got to get your wild cards in here now. So you got 3 wild card teams to pick. Let's see who we got.
On the wild card team, gonna probably be the Dolphins. On AFC, or you talking NFC? AFC?
AFC, yes.
Wild card, the Dolphins, the Chargers, and the Browns.
Cleveland. I can see Miami maybe. I'm more higher than you are on them.
So Chargers, Buffalo's not making it, is what you're saying.
That's what he's saying. He's saying Buffalo Bills are not making the playoffs. Right, Byron?
Yeah, they're going to make the playoff. Buffalo going to make the playoff.
You can't have 4 teams, Byron.
Buffalo going to make the playoff. Buffalo going to make the playoff. Maybe I'll take out – dang, man, that AFC going to be – they're going to beat each other up in the AFC, so it's going to be going down to the last week in the AFC.
I agree. So who you taking out? You got Miami, the Chargers, and Cleveland. Who's out for Buffalo?
I'm taking out the Browns.
Yes. All right. Okay. So going with 3 teams in the AFC East. All right. Remember, I'm writing these down, so you can't change your mind until later on in the season like I do, Byron. Okay. Yeah. So NFC West. Who do you got?
NFC West. The 49ers.
All right, 49ers. Now, Bosa hasn't signed yet. You know that, right? So they're still working out a contract there.
They're going to sign him. I'm telling you, they're going to get him signed. I'll tell you that now.
All right. Who do you got in the NFC North?
NFC North. Whew. I love the Vikings receiver, so I'm going with the Vikings, and hopefully Kirk Cousins can get it zip it in there. But
All right. So you got
Jared
That's a big
Minnesota.
hope.
Goff, man, he got a couple of people. He got a couple of pieces missing right now. He ain't got Jameson Williams and those guys. So
Yeah. All right. What do you think about that pick, Minnesota Pags?
I think that really is that's going to really be the surprise worst division in the NFC. I think the South is going to actually be better than them, and I actually have Detroit.
Do you? I don't disagree with you about it being, well, maybe the South and them are tied for the worst division. I think all those 4 teams, the Packers, the Vikings, Chicago, Green Bay, I think they're all going to be finishing right around 500, 9-7,
Bears.
8-8,
yeah,
7-9-1 or whatever. They're all going to finish pretty tight, and we'll see what happens there. But it's be competitive, and it's not going to be good, but it's going to be competitive in that division to see who gets first place. So we go to NFC South. Byron, who do you got?
I got the Saints. And I think gonna be a close second with the Falcons, Atlanta.
With the Falcons?
But I think the Saints gonna be the guys that are coming out of that division.
I would think the Saints are going to come out of the division because everybody else is no good. So I don't disagree with that. Pags, you think the Saints are going to win that?
I don't think the Saints are any good. So I think it's going to really come down to I'm interested to see how Carolina takes to their coach. That being said, because I think Carolina has got like sneaky talent. You know what I mean? I think the Saints are like overhyped. I don't like David Carr or whatever, whoever's the quarterback there. I don't like him as the quarterback. I think that their receivers are old. I think that the defense is tired. So I am not on the Saints wagon.
Yeah. I think that Derek Carr is better than Bryce Young. So I think they beat the Panthers there. I think the Falcons are a couple years away. And Tampa Bay is going to be terrible this year. So I mean, that's a win by default for me.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I think the Saints still got a great running game. I think Carr can throw the ball better than any quarterback in that division right now. And their defense might be tired, but they're still pretty good. That's for sure. So that's why I would go along with Byron there. All right, your big question. The NFC East, Byron, who do you got?
The Eagles are the best. I looked at it. I combed through it. I think the Eagles gonna dominate like crazy again. It's gonna be a close second between the Giants and the Cowgirls, and Washington not gonna be bad. So that NFC East gonna be tough. But Eagles hand down is they just got too much talent.
I agree with that. I think the Eagles are number 1 team in the East. There's no doubt in my mind there. I think Dallas falls off a little bit this year. I think Washington gets a little bit better. I think it'll be for third place. I think the Cowboys and the Commanders will be going at it, believe it or not. I think the Giants are better this year than they were last year, and they're still a couple years away from the Eagles. So if they keep building, they'll get there. So, but I agree with you. I think the Eagles are the most talented, got the most depth on the team than any other team in the league right now. So especially depth. The Cowboys don't have a lot of depth. The Giants don't have a lot of depth at key positions. The Commanders, they're still learning. They got a new ownership there. So, depending on how Howell plays and then Redskin defense is going to be good. So it's going to be an interesting year in NFC East. There's no doubt about that. And I know Pags agrees with you about the Eagles. What were you going to say?
Byron, yeah. So but I'm not going to talk about the Eagles here. I have been mentioning to Jim, and I have foreseen the future, at least in my crystal ball. And I keep saying that Dallas is going to implode this year. I think that they are ripe for an implosion of epic proportions. I think that they could possibly like only win 5 games if the chemistry starts to go the way it does, and they have a really difficult start of their season. And I think that they lose faith in McCarthy in total, and that they could implode and like maybe only win 5 or 6 games. Do you see any of that I'm talking about, or is it because you live there, so they're part of the news and stuff like that on what's going on? Do you see any of that?
I definitely see it, and I've been trying to tell Jim. I think that might what happened. That might be one of the things that happened this year because, what I just don't see them being the team that they were even last year. So they got a lot of new pieces, but I just think too that it ain't gonna be as easy as they think it's gonna come. They gonna lose the first game of the season, really.
It's
Well,
not
that's
lack
something
of
they normally do anyways.
it's not lack of talent. Dallas has talent. They have talent on that team. They got talent at wide receiver. They got talent on defense. It's a matter of the coaching. It's a matter of the coaching. If the coach and Dak Prescott, I think Dak Prescott's feeling. We talked about this, Byron. I think Dak Prescott's under a lot of pressure. He's got he was negotiating a $50 million college contract, and Jerry Jones says, okay, we'll go ahead and we'll bring Trey Lance over here. That's your answer. So I think he's under a lot of pressure this year, and the coach especially. If he can't put that together with all that talent, I agree with Pags. He may not be there at least end of the year. So,
yeah, I think
I think they got a lot of different pieces that they think they have, but I just,
yeah, you can have all the talent you want if that team doesn't have chemistry.
It's gonna be hard. Yeah. He's
okay. All right.
Yeah, I think Dallas
okay, he's on
third. They're not gonna do that well.
All right, Byron. So your wild card picks now, let's get to. These are going to not be easy either. Your 3 wild card teams, who do you got?
I think the Giants will be a wild card team.
Okay.
In the NFC. The Cowboys might be a wild card, but I'm going with Detroit. I'm going with Detroit, and I'm going with the wild card. Seattle.
Now, my co-host that's Normie in here says Seattle will take first this year. That's how highly he's thinking of the Seahawks this year.
No, they'll take wild card. They'll take wild card.
So he still thinks Geno Smith is a Jet.
Yeah, he does. Jack does think Geno Smith is still a Jet. you know, Byron. I don't think there'll be a wild card in the NFC North. I think there's going to be just a winner of a division, whether you like Minnesota, Detroit, Green Bay, or whoever there. I don't think there'll be enough room for a wild card there, and I don't think Dallas is going to be win 5 games. I think they're going to be in that wild card race, but Minnesota, the winner, Detroit, the wild card. That's what you're going with.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's Byron's picks.
Well, last year it was 3 playoff teams in the NFC East, so
right.
It might be still three playoff teams in the NFC East. That's the only thing.
There ain't no chance Washington's going to make it, and there ain't no chance. I think the Cowboys implode, so I think that they're out.
What do you think? Dallas is going to have enough talent to get the wild card this year, Byron?
They might get it. They might get the wild card.
That's all right.
It's one of these. It's gonna be an interesting year to see how these teams stay healthy. I think it's all based off of health, injury reserve.
Oh, it always is. Always is. That's the Eagles' biggest enemy right now is Jalen Hurts going down, or or their wide receivers, one of their wide receivers going down. That's gonna be the biggest thing the Eagles are gonna be fighting this year, at least until they get to the championship, which I think they'll be there. So, all right. So we got Pags on early, which is great because I want to talk to him a little bit about Bryce Harper. 300 home runs. Pags, the Yankees had a chance to get him. They passed on him. You guys got him. Left-handed power would have been great in Yankee Stadium, but you got him, and he's been on a tear.
He's finally got some of his strength back, and I think that's been part of it. Even during that game, he hit 4 balls that could have possibly we had warning track power. 3 of those at bats, and the balls he's been hitting have been not the I guess the exit velocity have been really high, but the trajectory has been low. So they've been line drives out of the ballpark. So, and that tells me that he's hitting the ball on the screws, as they would say. And I think that's it's been a little bit coming. I think he got out of he was hurt, and then he came back early. He's been hitting for average, but not for power, and I think the power is coming back at the right time.
Yeah, listen, I'm impressed with the Phillies this year. I think they're better than they were last year. They got a better pitching staff. I don't know if you guys will make the World Series.
Actually, and I disagree. I think the pitching staff is going to be what's going to hold them up.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. I think you got a little more depth than you did last year. That's for sure. As long as your manager doesn't pull out a pitcher in the 8th inning that's winning the game, or 7th inning, you guys will fight. What is your opinion on the 53-man roster of the Eagles? I mean, it's got to be tough to make that team, Byron. I mean, Byron and Pags.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, that's the good thing about that 53-man. But what I like about it, now you got the other 16 guys on the practice roster and in your reserve pool that you got, so you can be able to mass manage some of your talent. But the good thing about it, you got some choices to make, and you give a lot more guys the opportunity to to stand around that you think you might need later on down the road, which is good.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, Jalen's hurt. A lot of people aren't confident in the backup quarterback. Did the Eagles make a move to get another quarterback, Pags? Because there are a few out there right now.
No, I think they're sticking with Mariota at the moment.
Okay.
The Eagles are really, if they have to go to a backup quarterback this season, for any length of time, the season's going to change completely.
Yeah.
So I do not suspect that would really, occur. And the only backup quarterback that I see that would make any bit of sense to me whatsoever, just because I saw exactly what was going on with, Mariota, and as ridiculous as this sounds, would be like Wentz, but I don't think I don't think that they ever want to go back down that road. You know what I mean? I think that's because of that. They don't want to bring him back in and say, hey, did you learn your lesson yet? Are you going to be able to, play well with others and such like that? And I think that's part of the problem, that he just doesn't play well with others. I think he does have the talent, but because he doesn't play well with others, the talent doesn't show through.
Well, I know Zappy will become available because the New England just picked up the quarterback Corral from the Panthers, and there's a lot of other practice squad quarterbacks that I know the coaches on those teams would be happy to let him get a shot at being second string somewhere else. I would expect that your GM, unless they are happy with Mariota, will make a move, Pags.
I mean, anything is possible, but I don't think it's likely.
Okay. All right. You guys did pick up from the Denver Broncos a tight end, Alexander Aquenbunan. I think I'm saying that wrong. I'm probably saying it wrong. But you did pick up a tight end from Denver. You guys love your tight ends over there. That really doesn't surprise me that you picked up a tight end from Denver. It does,
right. Now, and actually that guy's got speed. So he's a big guy with some speed. They really liked Tyree Jackson, and he did not pan out, which was a shame because he was really fast. I actually had high hopes for him as well, and he just didn't pan out. And so picking up Denver's tight end was, it replacing Tyree Jackson.
Okay. All right. Listen, like I said, your GM's one of the best in the business. So I know if he goes out there and gets somebody, did he sign him to a 1-year contract? Pags, is that what he did with the Denver?
It was a trade, so I'm not sure what contract he's got.
What he's under. What are your feelings? I'm gonna ask you your feelings about Trey Lance going to Dallas. I mean, San Francisco, he really didn't get a shot to play. It's big news, Pags. That's why I'm asking you. I mean, do you think that he plays within the next couple of years, starts for the Cowboys, or do you think this is just another developmental stop for him?
Tough to say. I mean, I know that you feel like Trey Lance is one of the worst picks ever as a quarterback, and that he's not a very good quarterback to begin with for the NFL. I watched a couple of his practice throws and stuff like that. It's like he doesn't look like he's got anything really worthwhile talking about. Yeah. That being said, that's what they like in Dallas. They like quarterbacks that come out of nowhere. You look at Tony Romo, even with Dak Prescott. I mean, Dak was a 4th-round pick. He came out of nowhere and kind of took over for Romo. It's kind of the same situation here. I feel like that there is I think Jerry Jones hopes that he kind of, maybe not hit the Powerball, but hit 5 balls. You know what I mean? Like, I think that he hopes he won the lottery a little bit here. And to be honest, for what they gave up, it's not really, it's like what, they give up a 4th-round pick for him?
Yeah, 4th-round pick.
I mean, that's what Dak was. So
right.
I think that's what the thought process is that, hey, let's see if he can play out. We can only hope that he will, but if he doesn't, it's a 4th-round pick.
See you later. Yeah, there was rumors about the Eagles being interested in Trey Lance because he is a fast runner, good running quarterback, a little inaccurate like Jalen Hurts was when he first got there. So there was some rumors about that, Pags. What would you take him over Mariota right now? Mariota?
Tough to say. I think that, I mean, my problem becomes how much of his being there could be cancerous. It's okay. Like, here you go. Now you got somebody who just got traded from the team that was 2nd in the NFC last year to a team that was, you could say, arguably 3rd in the NFC last year. But I think that they are kind of going in similar directions, but in different ways. Yeah. Like, I think the 49ers are not going to be as good as they were last year. But I think that the Cowboys are definitely not going to be as good as they were last year. And I said that they were going to implode. And, and I think this just helps quicken the fuse a little bit.
All right. Listen, Trey Lance, believe it or not, apologized to the San Francisco 49ers for becoming 3rd-string quarterback because all the draft choices. So the kid is humble. He seems like a nice kid. I hope he does do something. I mean, niceness don't really mean too much in the NFL, but it would be good to see him land on his feet somewhere and maybe at least get a shot at some team one day, soon too, becoming a starting quarterback. He's got to play to get the experience. You only can learn so much, in practice and in exhibition games because it's all vanilla. You got to get out there with the first team during the season, play a couple games. Who knows? Maybe Dallas lets him clean up a couple games. I don't know. But you definitely got to get that kid out there playing if you want him to progress to become a decent quarterback.
Well, and the way I look at this is like there are quarterbacks that are starting quarterbacks. And then there are quarterbacks who can live their entire career backing up.
Very true.
And that's the career I see with Trey Lance. That that kid should learn how to hold a clipboard really well, and he's going to have a really long career holding the clipboard.
Yeah, you're right. There are some quarterbacks that do make a living being second string quarterbacks and kind of being in the film room and speaking out of the field with the kids. The older they get, more of a coach they become. So yeah, who knows? You might be right, Pags. I would love to see the kid get a real shot and playing somewhere to see what he really can do, not being injured, to see maybe he can play in the league. So
well, I think that one thing that he's got going for him is that he does have a brain. He is smart. You know what I mean? That he's, that's the one thing that really elevated him, that his talents weren't up there with his football acumen, that his football IQ and just his regular IQ is pretty high from what I remember. So
right.
I think that's part of what's going on. Like, I think that's absolutely what's going to be able to keep him. And as long as he's able to keep, everybody at bay in terms of, all right, I'm just going to be a backup quarterback. I don't need the ego. I don't need anything else. I'm just going to learn from the guys that are here and watch this game, and maybe it starts to slow down for him. I think that's part of the problem that he's had, is that the game is just too fast for him.
Right.
And by watching it and not being injured, you know what I mean? Because you got to watch it and still be able to kind of participate. And he didn't participate last year.
Agreed. The thing that is crazy. Could you imagine right now if the 49ers, I remember the picking order of the quarterbacks. Trevor Lawrence was gone, but they had Zach Wilson there. They had Justin Fields there. They had Mac Jones there. 3 quarterbacks. Zach Wilson still needs work. Mac Jones is playing. Justin Fields looks like he's maybe the most talented quarterback from that class. Imagine if they got one of those. You think one of those might be starting instead of Brock Purdy?
Yes. Yeah. If you take Chicago's quarterback and put that on the 49ers, it'd be a whole different offense.
It would. I mean, you got another runner that could, put him with Christian McCaffrey and Debo. Oh my God, that would have been what I think that's what they were looking for with Trey Lance. It just didn't go that way. So
right.
All right. So Eagles Super Bowl. Who would you think? I don't know all your picks. Who do you think they're playing for the Super Bowl in the AFC, Bags?
Until they can prove to me otherwise, Kansas City.
I think they're going to take a step back this year.
They may. They may take a step back, but I until somebody can prove to me otherwise. I mean, that's even last year. I thought last year they were going to take a step back, and they made it.
Yeah.
And then ultimately they won it, and you could say whatever the reason why they won it. I would not be surprised to see the Eagles in Kansas City again this year, and then the Eagles in Kansas City again for a 3rd year in a row.
You think so? I don't. I think with the teams that are available, they're getting stronger in the AFC. I don't know if that's going to happen, Bags. I mean, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs, Eagles have a chance of playing the Super Bowl next year. There's no doubt about that. Kansas City, I don't know. I think the Chargers might even be better than them this year. We'll see what happens over there. So what I'm going to do, real Pags, I'm going to take a quick promotion break here. And Keith Engel should be here on the other side. So, folks, this is some of the great shows that are the Northeast Streaming Sports Network.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat. If you like the sweet science, get ready to talk boxing on the Gloved Fist podcast with top boxing writers Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch. Frank, a former amateur boxer out of Philadelphia, writes for NY Fights and can be seen on the Boxing Channel. Jack, an amateur boxer who competed in the New York Golden Gloves, was a 6-term president of the Boxing Writers Association. And now, here's Frank Latirzo and Jack Hirsch.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, guys, any...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're here right now with our Yankee college football Patriot expert in all sports right now, Keith Angle.
Yeah, you laugh when you say expert. I feel bad now.
well, I mean, I could go on for about. I was going to talk about micro beer, taster and stuff.
Yeah, that actually moves to the top of the list.
That's true. So, Keith, a lot of things happening in your side of the in Massachusetts. There, I should say anyway. Talk about the latest move of the Patriots picking up Matt Corral from the Panthers. Probably going to be the second string quarterback. That may leave my man Zappy out of there. He might be gone because of this. I mean, they can't keep 2 quarterbacks on the practice squad. Cunningham's a little bit younger. So what do you think about that pickup, Keith?
Again, this shows to me, and I'm not a big Matt Corral fan, but he's a great college quarterback, but that doesn't always translate to the NFL, as we know. It shows a lack. This has nothing to do. I think everything you saw this week shows the Patriots know and knew all along Mac Jones was a quarterback. There was never any question he's the number one. And Bailey Zappi and Cunningham were released probably, at least in Zappi's case, with an agreement that he would come back. He turned down 7 offers from what I heard last night from other teams while he was on waivers. He wants to come back, but I think this does show signing Corral shows a lack of confidence in Zappi being able to ever step up. He had a horrible training camp, not just in games, just in camp. He was not good. And Malik Cunningham, they may keep him, Mac, because Malik Cunningham, they don't necessarily see as a quarterback full time. They still want him to be a receiver and a guy that they can play, in the Wildcat or whatever, now and again at quarterback. So interesting moves. They released a bunch of guys and they brought back probably 20 of the guys they cut on Wednesday. They brought back yesterday, but they brought a bunch of guys back.
Keith, just to throw it out there, do you think this is like a lack of vision or a lack of organization there? I mean, I think you got to know you're going to go after one of these other quarterbacks like Matt Corral, telling Zappi you're going to be back, and then kind of slap it in the back of the head, saying, "I'm glad you turned down all these offers, but you might be gone anyway." I mean, or you're going to be third stringer. I mean, is this just a little confusion right now in the Patriots?
I don't know if it's confused. I do think that there was a plan here, and if they didn't get Bailey Zappi back, they weren't going to be concerned about it because, they had ideas of another quarterback. I didn't see Matt Corral on the horizon, to be honest with you. There were a couple other guys that I thought they might consider, but listen, I don't think Matt Corral is probably any worse than Bailey. And again, his career may not be over. They may think they can resurrect it. He had some good games last year, as we know. But you got to back it up and you got to play well to have any chance. This is why I always said all along, there was really no real quarterback competition. This was Belichick playing some mind games with Mac Jones. And I'm happy with the way things worked out. I'm glad they kept Malik Cunningham for sure. This kid, very athletic. I don't think he's ever going to be a starting quarterback in this league, but he's the kind of guy who can really, really contribute in the right spots during the course of the game.
I agree with that. So let's stay on Jones for a second. I know we've talked about it in the past. The first 5 games you got is Philadelphia, Miami, the Jets, Dallas, and New Orleans.
Yep.
if say you win 2 out of the first 5 games, Mac Jones is struggling. I think you're stuck with him now, right? I mean, I don't know who else you would bring in. Matt Corral? I don't know.
No, there's no doubt to me that he's going to be the quarterback through thick and thin here. And this team, by the way, this team could easily get off 2-3, and I do think they'll win. I think they'll finish second in the division and win 10 games, and they could get off 2-3, and that could still happen. 2 years ago, when they made the playoffs, they started 2-4. So let's not forget
about the Jets, right?
No, he's talking about the
Patriots. The Jets were, listen, I picked the Jets on several shows, including my own, to win the division, although I want it to be a train wreck. The only team that can beat the Jets is the Jets. If they're the San Diego Padres of the NFL, they won't win. That's the only way.
I think the Dolphins will beat the Jets.
They're really good.
So any surprises that you have in the 53-man roster, Keith? Guys that made the team, guys that got cut.
Yeah. It was a little surprised to see them keep both the rookie. They both played well. Pop Douglas and Booty both played well. So I don't know that I call it a surprise, but I was happy to see it that they went with the youth there. They kept the rookie kicker that they drafted and traded Nick Folk for. I think they did a great job getting a 7th-round draft pick for Nick Folk. So that was a bit of a surprise. The fact that they've only got 2 running backs on the roster is a bit of a surprise. Trading Pierre Strong surprised me a little bit. They went for some offensive line depth, not great depth, but at least depth. And this is the thing with the Patriots. I think the wide receiver core is going to be better than people think, especially as the kids come along. The thing that will make or break this team is going to be the offensive line. Yeah. If they don't play well, this is going to get ugly.
A couple Yankees notes before we push on to your college football picks there. Keith, I got to keep doing a lot of things in a half hour this morning.
That's all right. You're good.
I lined them up. Josh Allison finally released. I don't know what took him so long, but he's gone. We got Volpe going 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases. First Yankee shortstop to ever do that. If he gets to 25 each, he'll be the first rookie to ever do that in the MLB, is from what I'm seeing. If he gets 25 and 25. One of the bright spots in a terrible season for the Yankees.
A bright spot, but also a lot of work to be done. I mean, his contact rate is terrible. You can't have a guy striking out 200 and X amount of times, for 20 home runs. But yes, overall, a bright spot. I think the Yankees have finally realized, where they stand here. We're going to bring a bunch of kids here today. Jason Dominguez among them. I'm excited to see Dominguez play a lot of center field, hopefully, here in the last month. I want to see that among some other kids. Look, it's been a lost season. Make something of it here. Find out what you got in some of these kids, and then make some changes in the offseason. They need to get away from this whole analytical approach. 100% analytics. It's just not working, and it's very obvious it's not working. And hopefully Hal Steinbrenner will insist that they get more, baseball minded rather than analytical minded. And numbers are wonderful, but they don't win games.
I hope you're right. Good morning, Rick. Jack is at a boxing function today. I'll be doing a dinner. I think it's with the Super 8 or something like that. Some boxing event he's attending today. That's why he's not on the show today. Had Byron fill in for him earlier.
He's not boxing, is he?
I would love to see that, I would love to see that. Hitting coach for the Yankees. Why don't they bring in a hitting coach that hit well when he was with the Yankees? Brett Gardner, a Bernie Williams, some guy that could hit the ball and not just for home runs. I don't understand why they don't bring in a former player that hit well. They used to do that a long time ago with Roy White and people like that.
Well, you may see that this year. And again, just because they could hit doesn't mean they can teach hitting either. We got to remember that, right? But I would like to see, and I think you will, because if Brett Boone's gone, I can guarantee you Sean Casey will not be the hitting coach next year, because one of the reasons
Cashman gone.
Your buddies. What's that?
Cashman gone.
Cashman, I think, will still be here. He signed a 4-year extension last year, and by all everything points to the fact that he'll be back. You listen to Hal Steinbrenner talk, I think he'll be back. But I think it's pretty clear now, Aaron Boone will be gone. If you listen to Cashman's press conference last week, there was no ringing endorsements of Aaron Boone. I think he'll be gone.
Yeah, he's like, he gave him enough of a chance, and now he's, it's
Yeah.
done. It's done.
Now,
all right.
again,
I got to save my own job now, and I got to get rid of you.
Yeah, and as much I'm not a big Aaron Boone fan, I think I've said many times I wanted your guy to be hired when they replaced Girardi in the first place, Rob Thompson. Part of Aaron Boone's problems is he was hamstrung by his own general manager and telling him how we were going to go about the games, and I don't like that. So
It's true.
They need a guy to be his own man in that dugout.
I don't think the GM will like that too much. But anyway, let's push on. I only saw a couple games last night, Keith. I saw Utah win, and I saw, of course, USC win the ball game pretty easily. San Jose State is not a big competition for them. That quarterback for USC is supposed to be, I guess, the first quarterback picked in the draft next year, for what I'm hearing.
Possibly, he's going to try to be the second man to win 2 Heisman trophies in his career before he leaves. Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterbacks in football. There's another one that didn't get a chance to play last night for Utah. Cam Rising didn't play, and Utah still dismantled Florida last night. That was an impressive win for Utah. USC looked okay last week. They still gave up a lot of yards, too many points to a San Jose State team, but they did force 7 punts, where last year they forced like 43 punts the entire season. That's how bad that USC defense was last year. So there were some signs that they might be better. USC will be a championship contender if their defense is even moderately better than it was last year, because their offense is that good.
So I was looking very, very, side eye, or just like out of the corner of my eye, to the Minnesota-Nebraska game. Are these guys like just really strong defenses, or are they just more indicative of the two levels? The levels were equal, and they just really, neither one of them is going to go very far in the Big 27.
Yeah, I don't think. That's the thing about these university is higher learning. They ought to learn how to count, because obviously we got, like you said, 27 teams in the Big Ten. That whole Western division of the Pac-10 is suspect, right? Somebody's going to win it by default. Nebraska's got a new head coach in Matt Rule. We were all excited, and all the Nebraska fans are excited that they're going to eventually return to where they were years ago as one of the power programs. That's probably never happening again. I would expect them to be better. The offensives last night were not good, as Pags alluded to. Minnesota usually plays better offense than that under PJ Flesch, but I think Nebraska, to me, they showed exactly what they showed with Scott Frost. They were in a position to win the game, and they couldn't finish it off. That happened for the last 2 years under Scott Frost. They played better football, but they couldn't win. They didn't learn how to win. And I saw it again last night at the end of that game. They should have won that game last night in Matt Rule's debut. So that whoever the Western division of the Big Ten is playing to get killed in the championship game by Ohio State or Michigan. That's all.
All right. Let's get some teams on the board for you to take a look at, Keith, and who you think. You got Michigan at East Carolina without their head coach. Any chance that Michigan loses that game?
None. 0. The suspension for Harbaugh will not affect them. They play all home games. The best team they play might be East Carolina or Rutgers in the 4th game, and they're not losing any of these games.
You got Ohio State and Indiana playing. Ohio State, of course, has a lot of talent, the wide receiver. Can Indiana stay with them?
No, Indiana's probably going to be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, and Tom Allen, their coach, is really on the hot seat there. They had a really good year again in the COVID season for Indiana, especially, but they've really gone back to the bottom of the Big Ten since. And Ohio State should win this for fun. The thing to watch is the Ohio State quarterback play, because they've got some big shoes to fill there, and not the highly rated prospects that they always have. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fill that position. But they're good enough to overcome that, especially in this game.
Georgia against Community College Tennessee Martin. I already know who you would pick there. That should be like 65.
What's the spread on that?
I don't think there is one. Maybe DraftKings you can get one, but where I place my bet, there's no spread.
That's
on
like
that
a 59-point spread.
It should be. This game should be an easy win. If this team scores a touchdown against this Georgia defense, that would be the major upset.
Well, no, I got to imagine it. Listen, at some point they're going to have their fifth stringers in there.
And those fifth stringers are like 5 times as good as anybody this community college can.
See, I don't like all these.
Yeah, Appalachian State one time was like, hey, they.
I agree with you. But this is at one time, yes. Appalachian State's a good football program, and we're not.
Michigan was ranked. Michigan was ranked and ready to just walk all over them. And next thing you know, Appalachian State smacked them.
By the way, those were the Rich Rodriguez days at Michigan, and they were not good years.
But they did almost. They came within a field goal of beating Alabama with Nick Saban there. So I mean, they
Appalachian State's been a thorn in a lot of teams' side the last 10 years.
Well, if there ever was a Division II team that could possibly be a Division I, they are that team.
They are an FBS 1 team. They play in I want to say Conference USA, I think. Yeah. They're an FBS.
They must have moved up then because I thought that they were part of the Division II. So
when they beat Michigan, they were in the lower tier of the NCAA, but not now. They've moved up since then. Yeah.
Well coached team all the time. Boise State versus Washington. We talked a little bit about this, Keith, before. Change your mind. Same pick you're going with.
It's games in Washington. For some reason, we were talking about being in Boise. It's games in Washington. Washington's going to be a really good team. Michael Penix Jr., who played at Indiana that year, I said they had a really good year, is going to be in Heisman, one of the Heisman favorites. And this will be an interesting game because I think Boise's definitely starting to get back to where they were in the early 2000s when they really got to the national stage. And the Mountain West is a very underrated conference, but I think Washington's too good to lose at home here. Spread might be a little high at 14. It might be closer than that, but I think it's a good football game for week 1 to watch. One of the sneaky good matchups. Yeah.
USC goes and plays Nevada. That's right. USC is going to be playing Nevada.
Yeah.
USC should win that.
Should be an easy win, but again, I want to see USC not give up 28 or 30 points in this game. Nevada can put some points up. We've got to start seeing that USC defense play better before they start getting into conference play, because the Big 12 in their last season theoretically has got a really good league. Washington's good, USC's good, Utah's good, Oregon's good. So it's going to be a good conference, and USC is going to have to play better than they played last week for sure to get to the championship game of that conference.
You got Penn State at West Virginia. Is Penn State ever going to get into the top 4 or 5 again?
As soon as James Franklin learns how to beat Ohio State or Michigan, they'll get to the top 5 and get into a playoff. But until then, no. He's going to go to West Virginia. This is an old rivalry that hasn't been played in a long time because of realignment.
It's a shame West Virginia is not anywhere near where they used to be either.
Yeah,
so
no, they aren't.
The Mountaineers are definitely second-tier team now, unfortunately.
Yeah, the worst thing ever happened to them
was one of the powerhouses.
The worst thing that happened to them was getting, put out to the Big 12 because they don't have any regional rivalries out there, and they don't get to play the real regional rivalries. They played every year in Penn State, and it was a big game.
Yeah.
Penn State will win this for fun, but these are the games that James Franklin wins, and then he doesn't beat Ohio State and Michigan. So that's
so I looked at the schedule, and I'm not any bit interested. I could care less about Penn State, but I am going to be running the PSG, trip to Penn State. I am going to go. We're going to go watch them go to dismantle UMass. So
hey, UMass is ranked 133 out of 133 FBS1 schools. They actually went on the road and won last week. It was only New Mexico.
At least they're ranked. They're on the ranking.
They're in the top. They're in the top 133. That's
They're
it.
la-
You know, but I was
last.
looking at the schedule, and that of course the last game of the season is Michigan Penn State, and that game's not being played at Michigan. It's being played at Ford Field, and I was like, that is a plus for Penn State.
Absolutely. I mean, they move some of these college games, and some of them I get them because they want, they play some of the Big 12 games at Jerry World because they get a bigger crowd. Well, the Big House holds 100,000 people. How much bigger crowd you're going to get than that? You're not
112,000. It is the biggest stadium.
Whatever, right?
It's the biggest stadium in the country.
Right.
Yeah.
I see zero reason to be moving this game. If I'm Michigan, I don't know how I agreed to this.
Well, and that's why I said that actually helps Penn State. I kind of look at that as, because you could get tickets right now, and the tickets they're only like aftermarket, like only $87 plus the fees, which is not ridiculous. No. You know what I mean? For Ohio State, it's $240 plus the fees. So I mean, it's like if I am a Penn State hopeful, I'm buying tickets to that game because I want to get as many Penn Staters in there as possible.
You're right. It's a huge advantage for Penn State. Why any team with a huge home field advantage like Michigan has moves their venue, I do not understand ever. But we see more of it today than ever.
And I guess they don't go back and forth. I'm asking you this question because I obviously I don't follow college at all. But I know last year Michigan came to Penn State, but I felt that Penn State went to Ohio last year. Is that the way it works? It's like we go on the road for both of these games this year, and then they're going to be at home both games next year?
Well, as far as whether they play both on the road or at home, I don't know, but they do alternate year to year. 1 year you're at home, next year you're on the road, and they don't in your division, right? You play everybody in your division. You might only play, Iowa once every 4 years or whatever out west, but they do rotate year to year.
It's a shame that it's set up that way for them because it would be good to have it alternating. Like, okay, I'm going to have Ohio State at home and Michigan on the road, or the opposite. It's just like have them both on the road or both at home. That you got to almost do at those odd years. You need to have, or the even years, you need to make sure that you win them home games. Yeah, so that at least you can get into that top 8.
Well, to get to a Big Ten championship game alone, they've got to beat both these teams. So, big ask.
So, Keith,
right.
Alabama, not to be outdone by Georgia, is playing the Community College of Middle Tennessee. Alabama, again, should win this easily, right?
They should, but big question marks in Alabama this year. Probably one of the highest, most overrated teams as far as rankings go, preseason rankings, is Alabama. It's still in the top 4. They've got a serious issue at quarterback. The fact that they brought Tommy Rees down from Notre Dame to be the offensive coordinator. He brought Buckner, one of the starting quarterbacks from Notre Dame last year, to compete for the job, and he's going to be 3rd on the depth chart. So they've had trouble at quarterback replacing Bryce Young this spring, and they've got trouble at wide receiver, which they also had even last year in Bryce Young's last season with Alabama. So I think Alabama is a team that you could see them lose 3 games. Now, losing 3 games isn't the end of the world unless you're Alabama. I see Alabama potentially not even making the SEC championship game for the 2nd year in a row, which is like heresy. Right.
So what's going on there, Keith? Is it just they're being out recruited by the teams equal to them or better? Is that what's going on there now?
I think the NIL has spread the talent around a little bit, especially within leagues like the SEC. Georgia's reached and probably surpassed Alabama right now. Kirby Smart's a really good coach, a really good recruiter, learned his craft under Nick Saban. And I just don't think that they get the type of depth, right? Georgia's got the depth now that Alabama's always had.
Right.
They've got great depth, but not like they had before, where it's just plug in another kid. We lose 10 kids in the NFL, we plug another kid in, we're just as good.
Right.
They're still a great program, but I think Georgia's surpassed them, and some of these other schools in the South, especially, are recruiting better and getting some of the kids that would have gone to Alabama.
Do you think some of this is also mentality a little bit where just even the kids are tired of hearing that Alabama is always in the playoffs? So then we go to Georgia. I kind of felt that that's how Georgia got back on the map, because Georgia, when Alabama was winning these games, Georgia wasn't even in the discussion. They were like 6-5, 7-4 team.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they started to win games like this. I kind of feel the same way, like that this is kind of cyclical. Like, I think that you're going to start to see, well, I think Colorado in the next 2 years is going to take a really big jump, because of course everybody wants to go with Prime, what I mean? And it's, and I think that that's going to, have a little bit of sexiness to it. I think that Georgia right now has got some sexiness to it. I think the Florida schools are going to return to sexiness in a couple of years. Obviously, Florida is not anywhere near that right now, but I think that the students themselves are choosing not to go to Alabama because, who wants to go to Alabama?
It's entirely possible. And what you talk about with Georgia's ascent, I mean, them starting to win and get away from 7-4 seasons coincides with Kirby Smart getting hired, by the way.
Thanks, Keith. I was going to say that.
You're right. Thank you. Is that Frank? Uh-oh.
That's hello. Good morning, gentlemen. And Tag.
Get out of here. Frank's here.
Morning, Frank.
How you doing, brother?
Well,
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I want some of that stuff you take before you make those tapes. Those videos.
Yeah, I tell you, and that's all natural. So I say, I don't know you want any of the smoke.
Are you sure? Oh, whoa. Okay. I agree with what
today, and he brings up the backup.
Let's
I agree with Keith.
Let's get Keith finishing up on
Frank's about to agree with me. I like
Frank. Go ahead, Frank. You agree with him, and we'll finish up with his picks. Go ahead.
Okay. No, here's what I agree with. Look, Georgia was second fiddle in the SEC until Kirby Smart got there, and Kirby Smart was under Saban, and since then we know what the history has been with Kirby Smart being there. I mean, look, they lost a lot of players this year. So did the Tide. It's still probably going to come down to those two teams. I disagree with Jim. We're saying guys don't want to play there. Jim, think about this. I'm saying Jim. I can't believe it. Pags, here's the thing. Saban comes to your house and he says, look, you come with me. You're going to have a good chance to play in the NFL, to win a championship. We're on TV every weekend. I mean, how many schools can say that? How's he not going to get the best guys?
Right. They're both going to get the best guys. And,
now they are, because Georgia proved who they are. And by the way, anybody that's a college football fan, watch this special on Netflix. I think it's about the Gators, the swamp. I watched that. I never realized all the pressure those guys were under in Florida. I have a buddy who's taking me to Florida games. It's like nothing I've ever been to. And that team was really good during those Tebow years.
Yeah, Swamp Kings is the name of it.
That's
really
it.
Good.
That's
it's really
it.
Good. It's really good.
So, Keith, let's finish it off. LSU, who also be improved, I think, this year, is playing Florida State. What do you think, Keith? Yes,
also
will be better.
This game is probably more important for Florida State than LSU. LSU can probably afford to lose here and still compete for a spot in the playoff. I like Florida State to win this game and upset. It's being played in a neutral field in Florida. I just like Florida State. They should have beat LSU last year when they played the first game of the week, and they did. LSU actually gave that game away.
Keith, where's the game being played? I thought it was at Florida State.
It's in Orlando. It's Orlando.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's in Florida, but so I think Florida State wins this game. I like Mike. Listen, if Mike Norvell hadn't turned things around the second half of last year, that team finished 9-3. Dion very very well may be coaching Florida State today and not Colorado.
Florida State's defense is really stout too.
It is good. Their quarterback's good. He'll be a Heisman, hyped for the Heisman most of the year too.
The last game I want to talk about a little bit is Clemson versus Duke. Keith, Duke not known for its football too much. I mean, we've had a few quarterbacks in the last, 20 years come out of Duke, including our quarterback over there, the Giants, but they're known for their basketball. Playing Clemson has kind of fallen off a little bit, Keith.
Look at if you can call, 2 losses falling off. Yes, they have made the national championship in 2 years, so that's falling off for this program the last decade. Duke is underrated. Mike Elko in his first year last year, they won 9 games. That's the second most they won in their history at Duke. This is not a bad football team. He's got a lot of kids back. I think this team will win 9 games again. I don't think one of them will be this week. They got the game at home. I might grab the points here. I think the points are like 13 or 14 right now on the road. I might take Duke.
Sweeney is really pumping up how Clemson has to win this game. All he's been talking about all week is no Clemson team has ever won a title without winning game 1 out of the chute. That's point. Their message. Again, Clemson for them had a bad. What would they lose? 2 games last year?
2 games, yes.
Okay, and think about that bar. That's kind of a bad year for them. So I think they're going to come back with a vengeance. I agree with Keith. I think Clemson wins the game, but as Corso would say, maybe a little closer than people think.
I do. I think so too.
Keith, did you give your pick on who wins the championship?
I have picked Georgia to be the first team to 3-peat ever.
Okay.
Well, actually, Minnesota did it in the 30s or 40s, but it was interrupted by World War II, so they didn't really win 3 consecutive years. But
let me ask you this: what about these guys?
In the playoff, maybe in the final. I have them in the playoff with Georgia, Ohio State, Florida State, and my long shot is Oklahoma on their way out of the out of the Big 12 to the SEC, wins and makes it to the playoff.
Pags, see this hat?
I could care less about college, so you can talk about it.
Okay, well, we didn't bring you on here for that, but this will transition into pro. See this hat? One of my wise guy friends bought this for me the year Ohio State won the championship because they know how much I hate Ohio State. So I said, Al and Julie, because you're so kind, I am going to wear this hat, and that will jinx Ohio State, and they will not win another championship. So far, the hat, I believe, is 6 or 7-0, okay? If you get 2 out of line during these last 20 minutes, I'm going to buy an Eagles hat and do the same thing to you.
You buy the Eagles hat because ain't nobody giving you one. We all know that you would be a Fugazi fan.
I am, but you have to admit one thing. As much of a hater as I am, I call balls and strikes, and I told you before the season last year, the Eagles are probably going to make the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yep.
I did say that.
He ain't happy about it, but he.
No, I wasn't happy about it, not at all. But maybe the best 5 minutes of my life were the last 5 minutes of the last Super Bowl.
Yeah, I know. You were dancing a jig. It's all right. It's okay. Hey, listen.
If I had my way, the Eagles would make the Super Bowl every year and lose on the last play by a field goal. It couldn't get better.
Oh, there you go. There's Frank with his.
All right, we know you want to talk about the NFL, Max. So go ahead.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about boxing first, because that's why I brought you on here. We'll talk about the NFL after that.
Yes, Pags will be my punching bag if we ever connect. Yes.
Real quick, Keith,
right,
Keith, are you going next week?
I am not. I'm not able to go. I wish I could, but I can't.
All right. I was just asking. I figured I'm going to be there. So
yeah, I would like to have found a way out. It could change. Something could change if I find some tickets or something. I'll let you know if I get out there.
All right, go ahead, Matt. What was your question?
I'll be looking for you if I see. You'll be easier to
find.
All right,
Keith, take care, buddy.
Bye.
All right, there's Keith.
What was your question, Mac?
Okay, let's get into boxing. And of course, with all my guests, I want to know how they got involved. How did you get involved in boxing in the first place, Frank? What made you want to go to the gym and become a fighter?
Okay, that's a quick story. I was 5 years old. I happened to be watching the 6 o'clock news the night that Cassius Clay fought Sonny Liston. At that point, I had no idea what boxing was, who Cassius Clay was, who Sonny Liston was. I knew nothing about them. But they showed Clay at the weigh-in going crazy. I'm going to kick your butt, this, that, and the other. And Liston was a really scary-looking dude, okay? I was captivated by Cassius Clay. I don't know why, but I was. Well, I told my dad, I said, look, I said, what do you think about the fight? He goes, this Liston's a killer. So that night, when my father went to go to bed, he would always check on me and my brother. He'd open the door to see if we were both in the bedroom. And I happened to be awake. And I said, Dad, I said, who won the fight? He said, he goes, that guy you like, Cassius Clay, he won. He goes, I'll tell you about it tomorrow morning. Something about me as a 5-year-old kid, I just knew that Cassius Clay, a.k.a. Muhammad Ali, would be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And I was captivated by him, Mac. And I'll tell you this much. If he would have been a pitcher, a quarterback, a goalie, you name it, I probably would have been blown away by that sport. But that's what got me into boxing. And then I wanted to do it, but I grew up in Haddonfield, New Jersey. There's no gyms in Haddonfield, New Jersey, not like there is today. So I went to Jim Correa's gym. And I said, Mr. Correa, I said, where's there a boxing gym around here? He said, Frank, he goes, the Cherry Hill Pal just opened up, and Joey Giardello, the former middleweight champ, is one of the trainers there. I went there, and then from there, Joey sent me to Frazier's gym in Philadelphia in '77. So
I was going to ask you about that. You're a huge Muhammad Ali fan, and you fought in Frazier's gym. And that's why when you talk about both of those fighters, you don't put either one down or say one was, one is a lot better than the other. You always talk about them straight up, where you can talk about Frazier freely and openly, and Muhammad Ali the same way.
Here's the thing. As a little kid, I hated Joe Frazier because I always felt that he was Muhammad Ali's equal. So through the years, you learn, you see things differently. And I've watched so much Muhammad Ali, and in doing that, I've watched a ton of Joe Frazier. And to me, if you can't be just a fan of one, yes, Ali's my idol, but if you watch Frazier in those 3 fights with Ali, he took Ali to hell and back all 3 times, and I just can't appreciate one of them. I appreciate them both. Who's the better fighter? Yes, Ali's a greater fighter because he had more ways and means to win. He beat George Foreman. Joe Frazier couldn't do that in 2 fights. But to me, I just can't fathom the mindset where I know guys that love Ali and they give Frazier no credit, or they'll try to demean him. And I always say this: well, if Frazier's no good, why do we praise Ali for beating him? If you guys put Frazier down, well, what's the big deal about Ali beating him? It's like, if you're honest and you watch the fight, you realize he barely beat him. Those fights were that close. But, Ali was the bigger, better athlete and slightly a greater fighter. But I love Smoking Joe. Yeah, and of the two of them, I actually enjoy watching Frazier's fights more than Ali's.
Yeah, I'm a big Frazier fan from way back when I was a kid growing up. I didn't like Ali's mouth. I thought he was a big mouth, and he did put Joe down a lot and really ticked me off. I wanted to hit Ali at the time. And
what's funny about Ali though, Mac and Pags? The magnetism and the influence he had. I remember in '70, I think I was in 6th grade, maybe 7th grade, going to see Ali's comeback fight against Jerry Quarry. And I remember going there thinking, I should be rooting for Quarry. There's not many good white fighters out there. Quarry looks like me. The black guys are dominating now. But I just remember thinking, as much as I like Quarry, and he was voted when Ali was out of boxing, Quarry was voted the most popular fighter in the world, 68 to 70. And I just remember thinking, if Ali beats Quarry, the world will seem imbalanced. But if Quarry beats Ali, I don't know if the world's still in balance. So that was the power of Ali. Then I got to meet him a couple times, and he was funny. We cut school. We went out to his house in Cherry Hill. He caught us peeking at him. He was outside raking the leaves. and he saw us and he waved us over. He brought us in his house. He asked us what school we went to. He asked us what our fathers did for a living. He asked us what we wanted to be when we grow up. And then he said, if you guys ever come here again during a school day, I'm going to call the truant officer and report you. And we just all laughed.
There you go. There you go. So I know that you did box Golden Gloves. You're pretty successful too, Frank.
I was a runner-up 4 times. I never won. I was runner-up 4 times.
That's something to be said. I mean, that's something that's said. I know you.
Once I was injured.
Go ahead.
Once I was in the wrong weight class. I lost too much weight. One time I lost, and I legitimately lost. And the other time, I felt I was robbed and I should have won. And that's when I fought Mike Rossman's sparring partner out of Passyunk Gym, Tony Mesaraca.
All right. You did fight pro briefly, right, Frank?
Yeah, so I had a couple pro fights. I got hurt, then I said, okay, this is serious business. I'm not good enough to ever be a world champ, and that was it.
So
how much
so
of you? So I'm going to drop a couple of small names that aren't really big. Tony Petacali.
Tony Picchiotti, you mean?
That could be. I thought it was Petacali, but I could be off.
Okay, and there was a Mike Picchiotti too. So you're naming the Philly guys. Go ahead, name some more. I know those guys.
And I know Joey I. That's what they call him. He's the cut man, little short guy, but he's built like a bull too. So
yes, he is built like a bull. Yep, I know those guys.
The last name that I'm going to mention because he's my boy, and I told him I'm going to paint up when he goes for his first title fight, and that's Sonny Conto.
I've watched him. He's pretty good. And let me tell you something, Pags. You being Mr. Philly Sports, you better jump on Boots Ennis. Do you even know who he is?
No. So, I mean, listen, there's a lot of sports in Philadelphia, so you got to give me a little bit of slack because I don't know everything about every sport.
Okay.
But that's why I come on here and I listen to your show sometimes because as much of a hater you are to Philadelphia, you still protect the boxing community. So I know that you just don't like my sports, who I root for, but I do get some knowledge from you on the boxing front.
Pags, it's not that I don't like the Eagles. The fans get on my nerve. I actually like a lot of the Eagles players, but let me tell you this. Boots Ennis is going to go down as a great fighter. And I don't think many people will disagree with me right now that Terrence Crawford is clearly the overall best fighter in boxing, whether you want to call it pound for pound, complete, or whatever. And let me tell you something. If he fought Boots Ennis, I would pick Crawford, but I'm not sure I would bet on him. I'm telling you, Boots Ennis is going to go down with recent greats as Joe Frazier and Bernard Hopkins and Matthew Saad Muhammad and those guys. He is that great. The kid is unbelievably gifted, and he looks like a Terrence Crawford clone. So I'm telling you, Philadelphia is going to have a world champion as soon as Boots fights for the title. He's that good.
I'm writing his name down. Boots Ennis. I'm going to go
Jaron
look him up.
Boots Ennis. He's, I think, 31-0 with 28 knockouts. He is the #1 ranked welterweight in the world. He is special, and it's been a long time since there's been a fighter come along that I just, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what's on, I have to watch him fight. Crawford's that guy. He's been that guy for about 6 years. Boots is going to become that guy.
I agree.
Isn't Spence and Crawford going to fight a third time?
A second time, yes. Spence just exercised the option to fight a rematch. The only thing is, we're not quite sure what weight it'll be. We think it'll be 154. It doesn't matter. Crawford's a better fighter, and he'll beat him again conclusively.
I agree with that, too. Real quick, Frank, we got some time left. I want to give you my top 10 heavyweights of all time, and I want to see what yours would be different or if you agree with these, all right? And I go based off eras. Who was the best in that era? Because it's hard to compare, the older fighters to new fighters, training, weight, all that stuff. So this is my top 10 of all time. I got Jack Dempsey for his era, Joe Louis for his era, Muhammad Ali for his era, Mike Tyson for his era. I got George Foreman in there. If there wasn't a defeat to Muhammad Ali, George Foreman may be considered the greatest fighter of all time. So I got George Foreman, Larry Holmes at 6, Tyson Fury at 7, Lennox Lewis at 8, Holyfield at 9, and number 10, believe it or not, Sonny Liston. The only reason why I didn't put Marciano in there was because the fighters he fought were kind of on the downhill side. Not that he wasn't great, not that he's not one of the greatest of all times. That's the only reason why I don't have him in the top 10.
But they were beating all the young fighters at that time except him.
Right.
And by the way, today's Marciano's birthday. He would have been 100 years old today.
It is.
Okay, your list. I look at it a little bit different. All I can say is this. I have a hard time, and I think the names are interchangeable from 6 through 10. But my top 5 hasn't changed in a while, and that would be number 1 is Ali, number 2 is Lewis, number 3 is Foreman, number 4 is Larry Holmes, and number 5, I go back and forth between Sonny Liston and Lennox Lewis. I know I don't have Dempsey in there, I don't have Jack Johnson in there, but those are my top 5, and I go basically by what they did during their era and how I think they would be head to head. So in other words, my 3, if I have you 3, in my mind, you probably beat everybody below you except the guys at 1 and 2. And I have George Foreman number 3. And as you said, if he didn't lose to Ali, he'd still today be considered the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now, but who holds that spot? Ali. Why? Because he beat him. Would he beat him a second time? I don't know. But the one time they fought when everything was on the line, Ali won the fight. And he was 32 and Foreman was 25.
That's true. That is true. I just watched Big George Foreman, that special.
The movie?
Yeah, I just watched that. It was all right.
Did you like it?
I think it was all right. It was pretty good. I don't know how accurate it was, Frank, but it was a pretty good movie.
It was somewhat accurate, but the guy that played Ali was terrible.
Yes.
And the guy that played Cosell was terrible.
Oh, very, very bad. I think, Frank, the big difference is the weight. I think Jack Dempsey would be fighting as a light heavyweight today. I think that's what he would be in.
He'd be a cruiserweight, Mac.
Yeah, and Marciano may be a light heavyweight. So I mean,
you know what's funny about Marciano that people don't realize? Before Marciano started boxing, he was like 225 pounds, and he was a big, stocky guy. I've always said Rocky Marciano was a 5'10" Larry Zonka, and you could see when he retired how big his bones were and how strong he was. But he was such a fitness fanatic that back then the heavyweights felt the lighter they were, the better they were. And Marciano supposedly was obsessed with his weight and keeping it down, but his trainer, Charlie Goldman, said he actually was better when he was around 200, 203 pounds, but he said Marciano's head, he didn't feel like he had the same stamina. So, but you're right. That's what makes it hard to compare fighters from different eras, especially heavyweights. 50 years ago, a middleweight still weighed 160. Today, It's still 160. The heavyweights, I mean, like I said, Tyson Fury is as big as Magic Johnson. Okay, Ali never fought anybody that big. Look at football.
That was my question. Is there such a thing? Is there a super heavyweight? Could a 320-pound guy get in the ring? Now, I understand there's a lot of other things that would go besides punching somebody hard. You got to catch him. You got to connect. You got to have the stamina to last all that time, and that gets that. You know, with a 320-pound frame, you're going to have a lot more.
If there was somebody good enough, yes, he could fight. But the problem is there's almost where you can be too big. Yeah. And I used to think if you were 6'5" or over, that was kind of a detriment and you'd lose some athleticism. But, you know, that's what makes Tyson Fury so unique is that the guy is about, well, he's not 6'8". I mean, he's not 6'9", he's 6'8", but he's very athletic. He's a good boxer. He's tough. He's strong. And that's what makes him a problem. So is he one of the all-time greats? No. But if you took a guy like Joe Louis and put him in the ring with Tyson Fury, Louis would he'd have his hands full because of the size.
I can remember Joe Frazier knocking out a 300-pounder in one of his matches, if I remember correctly. Huge guy, and he knocked him
Buster Mathis, who was like 250. Yeah. That was huge back then.
Yes, it was. It really was.
Weight doesn't transmit the punching power all the time.
a lot of times like a baseball bat. Speed is power, right?
Look at George Foster. He was thin.
Yeah.
Ken Griffey wasn't real big.
No, not at all. Not at all. Strawberry was very skinny too, but he had that
I forgot about him. Yes, you're right.
very fast bat.
It's the same thing. Look, I think the Steelers of the 70s are the greatest team I've ever seen. But if you put the 78 Steelers on the field with the 2022 Eagles or Chiefs, I mean, are they going to beat them? I mean, remember when Larry Zonka played, he was 240 running away from linemen that were 260. Today, those guys are 300 as fast as him.
Yeah.
So you put it in that regards, I think that the biggest difference and biggest similarities are the offensive and defensive line. You know, during those times, if you had a great defensive line or a good offensive line, you were going to win championships. And that's what built the Steelers during that time.
They had both.
That transcends.
Yeah.
So everything else, Lynn Swann, you could compare Lynn Swann and A.J. Brown.
Lynn Swann can play today. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
And you put that, that's what I'm saying. You put those offensive lines and defensive lines together, and that would make for a very good, if not an excellent game. You know what I mean? Just because if you were playing those two and to see how those two played out, that would really make for, I think, a great, Super Bowl of sorts.
When I watch the NFL today, you know what I look at a lot? I do look at the offensive and defensive linemen. And if you go back in the 70s and 80s, offensive and defensive linemen were not fat. They didn't have big bellies like today. Now, those guys can move, but it's just funny how that's changed because you go look at that Steeler line or, let's see, the Steeler line, the Viking line back in the day, the Cowboys of the 70s had a great line. Those guys didn't have big bellies.
Not in the offense, anyway. Not on offense.
But I tell you, when you, not for nothing, they have big bellies, but underneath those bellies, they still got six packs.
You're right.
It's funny.
Yeah. They're not that. You're right.
They're big six packs, but there's six packs still underneath there. Those guys still get in the weight room and stuff like that. And listen, I'm friends with Hollis Thomas, and he's a big boy. He's just got, you call him big boned or whatever. He's big, but
he's a massive guy. I used to drink with him on Friday night was Trey Thomas. He is a huge individual. And John Runyon used to come in sometimes too. He's another massive guy.
Yeah. Not as big as he used to be. Obviously,
no, he's trimmed down, right?
But
look at Jeff Saturday. Pags, look at Jeff Saturday when he was Manning's bodyguard. How big he was then, and now he looks great.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
those guys know that carrying all that weight's not good for your joints and your organ.
They force themselves to get big to handle them defensive linemen. I mean, that's just something offensive linemen do. After they get out of the game, they trim back to what they really are. But
the speed of the game today in the collisions, it's a car wreck.
There are just certain players or certain teams that could play today. I mean, Jim Brown could play today about 230. You can go back to Bronco Nozgurski was 230 pounds in his age.
That was Larry Zonkin's idol.
Yeah, those guys could play today. There are certain players in certain teams, the Steelers, I know they could play today. Them 70 Cowboys, I know they could play today. There are some teams, the Pittsburgh Steelers, no doubt, with Stallworth and Swan. There's no doubt they could play today. There's certain players that couldn't play today, that's for sure. But listen, Zonka, I know that's your favorite player. Your favorite team is Miami. And so I know you'll be rooting for them this year. I think they're going to do real good this year, Frank.
What's real good?
I think they'll take first.
They're going to win the East.
I think so. That's my opinion.
All right. My prediction is they don't win the East. If they make the playoffs, they'll squeak in, and Tua will not start all 17 games. What do you think, Pags?
I agree. I think that he's too much of an injury risk. A lot of talent, but they just don't have the offensive line to protect him.
No.
And he can't sustain over 30 or 40 sacks. And I think that they're going to get him that much.
Quick release.
It's amazing. I watched him and Hurts on Alabama. And I remember the championship game against Georgia that Hurts started. and Tua came in and won. And I remember watching that game, and I knew that as long as Hurts was in there, Alabama was not going to come back and beat Georgia. If somebody would have said to me that day, Hurts is going to be the better pro and maybe even the better passer in the NFL, I would have said you're crazy. Now, in closing, I'll be honest, Pags, I think the Eagles have done a great job building their team around Hurts. I'm not sure how good he would be if he was on the Chargers or the Giants, but I know this much. As long as Hurts is on this Eagles team, they are a factor, and they are going to beat San Francisco in the NFC Championship this year.
We shall see. I think a lot of people agree with you, Frank.
Although my all-time favorite, or my favorite player today is Deebo Samuel.
Well, he's a heck of a player. Anybody would love to have him. Folks, we run out of time. Franks, thanks for coming in. I knew you and Pags would get together and be civil today. I didn't let you guys get a chance to get off. So it was
we'll have some fun once the season starts and those videos keep popping up.
Yep.
All right, good. Thanks to Byron. Thanks to Keith Angle. Everybody have a great Friday. We'll see you tomorrow on the Mac.
See you guys. Enjoy the season.
Take care.
See you, Frank.